Good morning, everyone. This is the Grade 10 Mathematical Literacy webinar. We are going to begin shortly. I would just like to allow a few more minutes for all the learners to attend the webinar. So you can use this time to familiarize yourself with the panel on the right or at the bottom of your screen. I'll be with you shortly. Okay, welcome again, everyone, to the Grade 10 Mathematical Literacy webinar. We are going to start now. Before we continue, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Kimberly Brits. I am the Educational Specialist for Mathematical Literacy. Before we begin this webinar, let's cover some of the basics. If you are struggling to hear me, make sure your audio is on and your speaker volume is turned up. You will automatically be muted when joining the session. Should you have any questions, you can ask your question in the question box below or on the right of your screen, or you can simply raise your hand. To raise your hand, click the icon on your dashboard below or on your right. Download this presentation and additional resources in the handout box below or on your right. You will also find all this information in the question box below or on your right. Remember to please send us your questions. Now, on this note, I would just like to inform all of you that I will not be answering any questions during this webinar, and I will also not be answering any questions at the end of the webinar. However, I ask you to please still submit your questions. I will send feedback and answer them via email as soon as possible after this webinar. I would also like to introduce Marika Becker. She is the organizer for this webinar, so you will not be able to hear or see her, but she is here and she's just making sure that everything runs smoothly. Now, the handouts that you will find on the right panel or at the bottom of your screen, please remember to download them during this session as they will not be available as soon as the webinar ends. It will only be made available on the resource tab on guided learning. So please have a look there if you do not download them during this session. Now, before we continue with today's discussion, I would like to just revise term 2 topics. Now, the topics that you will be covering during this term is finance, which covers financial documents, and tariff systems. The second topic is measurements, which covers distance, length, mass, volume, and temperature. The third topic that you would be dealing with during term 2 is maps, plans, and other representations, which covers scale and map work. And then the last topic that you will be dealing with is probability. Now, if you wish to have a more detailed description of each of these topics, including a weekly planning with prescribed dates as to how much time you should spend on each topic, I refer you to the notes on week 1. These notes, they are available in the handout section, so if you do wish to have that planning, go and download the notes on week 1 if you have not already done so. Now, today we are going to be discussing tariff systems. Now, a tariff system refers to a fee that is charged per measuring unit for a specific service. So the tariff systems that you would be dealing with during the course of this term is municipal tariffs. So that refers to a fee that is paid for services which include water supply, sewage disposal, refuse removal, as well as electricity supply. The second tariff system that you will be dealing with is telephone tariffs, which can either be prepaid or a contract based, and it may include payment for internet and landline services. Next, we are going to be looking at transport tariffs, which covers the fares to board a train, taxi, or a bus. And then lastly, you will not be dealing with this tariff system so much, but just for the sake of knowing, bank fees is also considered a tariff system, as you pay an additional fee for every transaction that you make during the month. If we continue looking at tariff systems, you will see that there are different billing methods that could be followed working with each tariff. So we are quickly going to be doing an overview of the 3 possible billing methods. The first billing method is a prepaid method, where you multiply the tariff, which is the amount given to you in Rand, by the number of units that you want or wish to purchase. So similar to buying airtime for your cell phone, you purchase the number of units, or you purchase the amount before you are able to make the calls. So the next billing method is a contract or monthly billing method, which includes a subscription fee as well as monthly costs, and you add these 2 values together to give you your total monthly amount. Then the last billing method is a fixed billing method. So that means that regardless of the amount of units that you use, that could be the amount of water, the amount of electricity, the amount of phone calls that you make, regardless of how many or how little you make, the amount that you pay each month is predetermined and it is a fixed amount. Therefore, it is the same every single month. Now, I would like to discuss a few examples with you today. You will find that the questions that I chose are questions similar to the questions that you will find and come across in a task, a term, or a term test, and in an exam paper. So please pay attention and make sure that you understand these examples quite well. If you have any questions, please put them in the question box so that I can get back to you as soon as the webinar ends. Before we continue with our first example on water tariffs, let's just look at a few key points. First of all, water consumption is measured in kiloliters. And it's very important that you know 1 kiloliter is equal to 1,000 liters. This is something that you will need to know beforehand when writing a test or exam paper, as it is most unlikely that you will receive this information in a paper. Now, when working with water tariffs, we do not pay a fixed amount for the water consumed, but rather determine the costs using a table with predetermined prices provided by the local municipality. Now, we will look at one of these tables shortly. The only fixed price that may be included is an administration or maintenance fee, but this fee will be included and indicated in the question statement or in the tariff table. Now, this table that I'm talking about, the one that is provided by the local municipality, works on the principle that the more water you use, the more expensive the water becomes per unit. Now, before we continue with example 1, I would like to quickly discuss this table with you here on the left-hand side of your screen. So you will see in the first column, it gives you the range, meaning 0 to 6 kiloliters of water, and then from there on, the amount of kiloliter increases. In the second column, you will see the price per kiloliter. Now, it is very important that you see, if you use between 0 and 6 kiloliters, you only pay R6.48 per kiloliter. If you use more than 6 kiloliters up until 30 kiloliters, you pay R16.20 per kiloliter. If you use more than 30 kiloliters up until 60 kiloliters, your price will be R21.60 per kiloliter. And therefore, I want you to see that the more water you consume during the month, the more expensive each kiloliter becomes. Hence the principle that we've discussed. And then right at the bottom of this table, I would like you to note that there is a fixed fee included if you use more than 6 kiloliters of water. Now, this is very important for you to remember when answering questions, that if you use more than 6 kiloliters, additional R20 needs to be added to your total monthly billing. Now, let us continue with example 1. The question statement reads, Janet would like to calculate the cost of using 31 kiloliters water. She uses the tariff system or the tariff table below to make her calculations. Now, at this point, it is important for you to note that Janet is making or consumed 31 kiloliters. Therefore, if we see in what range she falls within the third range. She uses more than 6 kiloliters. She uses more than 30 kiloliters. Therefore, the amount that she used falls within the third range. Now, this will indicate to you that you are going to be doing 3 different steps or calculations to determine what she is going to pay for the water consumed. Now, the first step is going to look something like this. You will see that 6 kiloliters is included in the first range. Therefore, you are going to say 6 kiloliters multiplied by the price per unit or per kiloliter, which is R6.48. This gives you a total of R38.88. Hence, this is the price that she will pay for the first 6 kiloliters that she used. Your second step is going to look something like this. Now, this is where you need to pay attention. You will see that this range does not start from 0. Therefore, you first need to calculate the amount of water that falls within this range. Therefore, we say 30 kiloliters minus 6,1 kiloliters, and this gives you an amount of 23,9 kiloliters that falls within this range. That 23,9 kiloliters you multiply with the price per kiloliter, which is now R16.20 as given here in your table. If you multiply these two values, it gives you a final answer of R387.18. Now, we are not yet done with our calculations, as we determined that the 31 kiloliters consumed falls within the third range. Therefore, we still need to do one more calculation. Now, it is important here that you note the following. Janet does not use up an entire 60 kiloliters. Therefore, we need to determine first the amount of water that she uses that fall within this third range. We do this calculation by taking the amount of water that Janet consumed, and from it we subtract the 6 kiloliters that falls within the first range. We subtract the 23.9 kiloliters that falls within the second range, and that gives us an outstanding 1.1 kiloliter that she still needs to pay for. We multiplied this 1.1 kiloliters with the 21 rand and 60 cents as given in your table. This gives you an amount of 23 rand and 76 cents. The next step for us is to add these three values together in order to determine the amount that you will need to pay for water consumption. If we add the three values that we just calculated, we get a total of 449 rand and 82 cents. Now, extremely important, as I mentioned at the start of this example, that we need to include a fixed fee of 20 rand. So you are not yet done, and it is important that you do not forget about this fixed fee, because you will lose marks if you end right here. Your final step for this question will be to take the 449 rand and 82 cents and add the fixed fee of 20 rand. This gives you a final answer of 469 rand and 82 cents. Therefore, this is the amount that Janet will pay at the end of the month, including the fixed fee as well as the costs for the water consumed. So I would at this point just like to see if you are still with me, if you are following along, and if you understand. So if you can just raise your hand, put your hand up so that I can see that you are still with me, that you understand. Thank you so much. I see that many of you are still following along. It looks good. Please, I encourage you to ask your questions in the question box so that I can get back to you if you do not understand something. Okay, at this point, I would like to look at the next example. Now, the second example is going to be on cell phone tariff systems. The question reads, Grace took out the following contract. The contract includes a 200 rand monthly subscription fee, 30 minutes free airtime, and then a 1 rand 20 cents per minute after the first 30 minutes. So it is quite simple, and I would like to continue with our first question. Calculate what Grace must pay if she makes 275 minutes worth of calls. Now, very important. From the information given, we can derive the following formula. This formula is not given in an exam paper or in a task or test. You will have to determine or conclude this formula from the given information. So the formula that I gave here says the call charges can be calculated by taking the tariff and multiplying it with the number of minutes that she made. Now, very important that you remember that she gets 30 minutes of free airtime. So you cannot charge her for this 30 minutes as it is free. Therefore, our calculation is going to look as following. The tariff is given for us as 1 rand 20 cents. And this 1 rand 20 cents is multiplied by the 275 minutes of calls that she made minus the 30 minutes that she gets free. Now, if we continue with our calculations, you will see that she is now only going to be paying for 245 minutes. If you multiply the tariff with the minutes for which she is going to pay, it gives you an answer of 294 rand. Therefore, this is what the cost is going to be for 275 minutes. We are continuing with the second example on cell phone tariffs, and the contract information remains the same. The second question reads, determine the total monthly cost for talking 420 minutes on this contract. Now, very important The key term that you need to see here is total monthly cost. Therefore, the formula that we will be using includes the subscription fee and is not only the cost for the calls that she makes, but also for the subscription fee. So from the information, this is the formula that we gathered, and over here we are going to then substitute the information we have. The subscription fee is 200 Rand, and we add the tariff multiplied by the number of calls that she made. Now, once again, extremely important that you remember to subtract the 30 free minutes that she gets. If we continue with this calculation, you will gather that she is only going to be paying for 390 minutes worth of calls. So if you put that entire equation into your calculator, you will get a final answer of 668 Rand. Therefore, subscription fee as well as the total of minutes that you will be paying with is going to add up to 668 Rand. Now, for the final example that we will be covering today, you will see that it is on electricity tariff systems. Now, before we continue with the questions in this example, I would once again just like to go through a few key concepts before we continue. Firstly, I would like to indicate that electricity consumption is measured in kilowatts per hour, and that 1 kilowatt per hour is equivalent to 1,000 watts. Now, when we look at the two billing methods that can be used for electricity tariffs, the first one is a monthly billing, which indicates that you will pay for the amount of electricity consumed. The formula is going to look like this. Your cost can be calculated by taking your service charges and adding to that your tariff multiplied by the total amount of kilowatts used. The second billing method that could be used or could be asked is a prepaid billing. So that is when you buy or purchase electricity in advance before using it. This is calculated by saying that the prepaid cost is calculated by taking the tariff, which is normally the amount given in Rand, and multiplying this with the total amount of kilowatts that you wish to purchase. So it's quite simple, and these formulas may not necessarily be given to you. Sometimes they might be given, sometimes they might not be given in a question statement. So it is very important that you learn these formulas in advance, that you understand them. Now let us continue with the third example. The question statement reads, the Moremi family use a prepaid meter to purchase electricity for their household. They make use of the formula below to determine the total cost of electricity. So very important, the Moremi family purchase electricity before they can use the electricity, and they determine the cost of this electricity by using the given formula over here. Now the first question reads, what will the total cost of electricity be on the prepaid meter for 110 kilowatts? So they wish to purchase 110 kilowatts, and they will be making use of the formula that is given to us. You only need to understand how to substitute the values provided into this given formula. Now, very important, we wish to determine the cost. The tariff is given to us, which is 1.40 Rand for every kilowatt used. And then the number of kilowatts that they are going to purchase is 110. So it is quite simple, just substituting the values given into the formula, which is also provided. If you key this into your calculator, you will get a final answer of 154 Rand. Hence, this means that 110 kilowatts will cost the Moremi family 154 Rand. So it is quite simple and quite straightforward if you know how to interpret your question and if you know what information to use. We are continuing with our third example. The question statement also remains the same. Now, the next question reads, how many kilowatts of electricity will you be able to purchase with 231 Rand? So extremely important that you know you will be making use of the exact same formula that is given in your question statement. Once again, it is up to you to now take the information given and substitute it into your formula. Now you will see that the cost that they are willing to pay is 231 Rand. The tariff remains the same, 1 Rand 40 cents, and this is what they wish to calculate. So they want to find out the number of kilowatts that they will be able to purchase for 231 Rand. Now, in order for us to calculate the number of kilowatts that they will be able to purchase, we are going to take the total amount which they are going to spend, and we will divide it with the tariff of 1 Rand and 40 cents. If we divide these two values with each other, it gives us a final answer of 165. Now, extremely important that you note the unit in which we are measuring. In the previous questions, our answers were all given in rands and cents because we were working with amounts. But in this question, you need to note of what you are measuring. We are measuring the kilowatts. We are not working with any form of rand and cents. So extremely important that you pay attention to that when giving your final answer, as often you will be awarded a mark for the unit. So extremely important that you pay attention to that. Now, that is it for today's session. I truly hope that all of you learned something by doing these examples, and I ask you again to please submit your questions in the question box before you exit this session. I also remind you to download the notes for week 1 as well as today's PowerPoint presentation. They are both given to you in the handout box, so remember to download them before you exit the webinar. Thank you very much. That is all from me for today.